Hello, and welcome to the demo of the BPM Tap Tempo app. Listen, this app allows you to tap along with any piece of music, and it will tell you the tempo, plus some other useful numbers that are useful to help you adjust effects units and synths. It's fairly intuitive and easy to use, but I wanted to demonstrate in more detail the key features. I'm using GarageBand here with some stock drums to get us started with some rhythm. So the first thing to talk about is the buffer area here. The buffer is how many taps it's going to record and show you how many it's recorded. And we need to kind of record multiple taps because we're all human. We're not perfect at tapping along. So it won't be perfect the first time or the second time or the third time, but the average of all of them will give you a pretty good reading. So what we have here is a buffer for 8 bars of music, and when the buffer's full, then tapping any more won't actually improve the reading unless it's you actually getting better at tapping and you're making less mistakes. And we'll show you more of the other display things that kind of help show what's going on there. So I'm just going to play along with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. Phew! Right, so that's me 8 bars of taps. I'm just going to stop this. And it's telling me it's 125.2 BPM. So we'll open up on GarageBand, and it is indeed 125 BPM. It's not 0.2, but again, that's just my mistake. And to be honest, the display could not have the 0.2 and just tell you the kind of the rounded BPM, but it gives you an idea of, well, not all music is played to a metronome or a computer, so it kind of gives the real reading. If there's kind of halfway between or something like that. So I could continue tapping along, but the bar wouldn't get any fuller because it's just going to throw away the oldest results and replace it with the newest results and just keep going like that. So probably if I just kept tapping forever, it wouldn't. I don't think it would go to 125.0 just because I'm not a pro musician or anything like that. So yeah, my timing's not great, but it's good enough to get the right result. So this is the buffer area. So the other thing to say about the buffer is, how do we reset the buffer? And the answer is we don't, because we don't need to. I'll just kind of play this in again. So we've got 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So I haven't played the 8 bars in, so the buffer is half full. But what happens if we're listening to a different piece of music and it's got a different tempo? So I'll just change this to something crazy fast. See if I can keep up with that. And when I start playing this, what will happen is it will just recognize that it's a completely different tempo and it will just switch to a different buffer. So, and then it will just start filling that buffer in from nothing. But if that was just a mistake, it will go back to the original buffer and just carry on. But in this case, I've changed the tempo completely, so it will be a new tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. So it emptied the buffer. Well, it didn't empty the buffer, it just switched to a new buffer. But if I'd gone back to the original tempo, it would have gone back to that. So the other thing is, if there's a slight deviation in tempo, it won't switch to a new buffer. It will just it will just keep using the buffer that you've got. But if you remember, we've only got 8 bars of memory, if you like. So if the tempo just kind of changes by 5 BPM or something, once you've done 8 bars worth, you've just put that new tempo in automatically, or you'll actually just see it's kind of changing. The reason is we want to kind of still keep that kind of history to kind of make it a little bit more reliable. But with the buffer being only a certain size, you just have to kind of just do that new tempo, and it will get it. So let's just change it to this and see what happens. Three, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it thinks it's 146. What did I set it? Oh, it was 146. Awesome. The other thing I didn't mention is it doesn't matter if you stop tapping. It's not going to kind of wipe it and you have to start again from scratch, because again, it will just kind of pick it up. If it's the same tempo and you're just tapping along, we're having a break now, we can just kind of go back. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And it's not kind of lost any of the history, it's still there. So there's no need to start again if you just miss a tap or kind of worry about that. You can just stop, take a break, and then come back to it and have another go. The next area of the display is the beat indicator, which is at the bottom, not showing at the moment because we're not doing anything. But what that does is it enlarges and decays in time with the music. So no matter what tempo it is, it will decay to nothing in the time of one beat. So it gives you a kind of a visual display. So if I start tapping along, you should see it kind of decays all the way, it kind of expands all the way out and contracts to nothing by the end of when the next beat is coming in. The next part of the display is this one on the right hand side with the plus minus, and this is the kind of the error, and it's the error between the tap that you've just done and the kind of the average result at the moment. So it kind of gives you an indication of if that is kind of going all over the place, either you're not tapping very consistently or the actual music is widely varying in tempo. So it's probably more likely to be the first one. And you can probably see this is juttering about because, again, as I said, I'm not so great at tapping along and I'm not a pro musician. But again, we'll just give a little demo so you can look at this. So occasionally I can get it so there's no error, but most of the time it's a bit above and a bit below. And I just deliberately went wrong there to make it go crazy. In addition to the tap mode, we can also enter the BPM manually. If we do actually know what the BPM is, we can kind of press the buttons plus and minus to adjust it. Or if we want to just type it in, we can open the number pad and we can just say, right, the tempo of this is 147. So next it's time to take a look at the numbers, and this is the kind of the calculator type, because it's a BPM Tap Tempo calculator. So the BPM is just one thing, but for kind of adjusting effects, the BPM isn't always useful. You actually need to know some of these metrics that are down here. So this number here is the delay time, or not the delay time, it's the time between different types of notes. So this is the time between the full bar. This is a half bar note. This is a quarter note, the 8th, 16th, 30 seconds. So what we can use this for is to kind of tweak any of the effects that we might have and make sure that they're in time. I mean, this one I've just got isn't the best example, but it's a reverb. So when I put this reverb on, the reverb time is 1.4 seconds, which isn't in one of these numbers. So what that means is the reverb tail is going to kind of wash over some of the notes, and it's going to kind of it's kind of going to overlap. So we can have a listen to what that's going to sound like. So it's not on at the moment. I've got it really exaggerated. It's much more than you'd normally have it. So it's pretty washy at the moment. But if I take it to, I mean, it's 1.4 at the moment. So if I take it to 0.8, that snare's quite happy now, because the snare is only being hit every half bar. So it's kind of it's fading out just before the next one comes in. So this is kind of quite nice for kind of tightening up your tracks and improving your effects. So the next one will be delay, which is super obvious. I'll turn the reverb off and we'll put a delay on. So I switched to full screen mode because the delay app takes the full screen and you can't see all the bits that you need to while we're demonstrating this. So that's why it's in full screen mode, but the tempo's the same, it's 146, and the tempo of, the delay time for one beat is 410 milliseconds, and the one for two is 821. So if we go back here and we have a listen. So here our delay at the moment is 1.111 seconds. See here it's not in time, I would say. Might be interesting, but so what we can do is we can grab this and we can change it. So the other one was 820. Oh, there you go. So the actual, that's actually hitting, it's kind of phasing actually there, because the delay time is, we're hitting the snare every 2 beats, and the delay time is for every 2 beats. Remember, 821 for every 2 beats. So that's why we've got this kind of weird phasing, and you can't actually hear the echo other than that. So let's change it to 410 and it will be very prominent. So again, a bit phasey, but that's because it's very loud. I mean, this is probably more than you would normally have a delay, but it's just for demo. Maybe we can bypass it just so we can see what's yeah, so a simple drum beat. Much more complicated drum beat. Okay, so the other thing to demonstrate is the mode. So the mode is this button here. At the moment it's in normal mode. I don't know if you can see that there, but normal mode just means just plain dum-dum-dum. If we change the mode to dotted mode, it will be a dotted note, so that's kind of 1.5 versions of that note. So before it was 400, now it's 616 or 308. So again, if we try and change this, go to our delay and change the delay time to that 600. It's in time, but it's a kind of a note and a half now. It's just a more interesting effect. Again, if we go to a different mode, we go to triplet mode, that will get more jazzy. So 547. Just have to wait for it to kind of catch up. I don't think this drum beat is very good for this, but that will be a triplet time. Oh, actually, that's the one for a note and a half, so that's probably why I go to 273. So that's in time, triplet time. Probably sounding a bit weird because it's a 4/4 beat that's been tripletized, but there you go. Those are the different modes. So the next thing to look at is the frequency setting. So this BPM, we have delay times, which we talked about before, and those have a corresponding frequency. So the kind of the frequency. Oh, actually, I'm in triplet mode at the moment. I'll go back to normal mode. So in normal mode, my beat note is 410 milliseconds, and that equates to 2.433 hertz, which is how many cycles per second to get that note. So where this comes in handy is if you've got some LFO type effects or a synth where you have the rate and it's in hertz, so you can then adjust it again like we did before to kind of fit the tempo of the track to make sure that these things are in time. I suppose the last thing to say about these is of course use your ears. This is just the idea of this app is to just give you the kind of the technical facts, but of course if your ears tell you differently, that is of course the right results. Okay, that's it. I hope you find this useful. Thank you very much.